What's up, everybody? It's your boy J-Rod. Welcome to the channel. So I got some breaking news for you guys. Alright, starting on January the 26th, the United States is now going to be requiring COVID tests upon entry of the country. I'm just going to go ahead and read it real quick. Let me pull it up on my phone. Let me see. On January 12, 2021, CDC issued an order requiring all passengers arriving to the United States from a foreign country to get tested no more than 3 days before their flight departs and to present the negative result or documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to the airline before boarding the flight. This order will go into effect at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on January 26, 2021. Alright, so y'all hear it. They are now officially ordering people to have a COVID test, a negative COVID test upon entry of the United States if you're going to be flying internationally. Now, why does this matter? Well, the problem is there are tourists around the world right now that are actually being stuck in foreign countries because they can't get a negative COVID test. Now, in Canada, they already started this rule before the United States. They already been requiring their citizens to have a negative COVID test upon entry of Canada. And there are actually a lot of Canadian citizens that aren't able to come back home because they have not been able to get a negative COVID test upon entry of Canada within a timely manner. So, for example, like they will try to go get the test in the foreign country, but it won't come back within 72 hours. It'll take longer. And so what ends up happening is they have to pay for another test. You know, they have to wait for another 72 hours to get another test. And all of this is coming out of their pockets, you know, at their expense. So this is becoming a problem. I'm actually gonna play a video clip for you right now so you can see what's going on.
In hindsight, vacationers to this tropical resort in the Dominican Republic regret their decision to travel during the Christmas break.
But it wasn't such a big deal of traveling when we booked.
Despite warnings from the federal and provincial governments, this Montreal couple decided to take their annual holiday vacation anyway, knowing they would have to quarantine for 2 weeks upon their return. But after they arrived, new rules came into effect.
I started having calls from people in Canada saying to me, oh, you're going to need a test to come back. So I'm like, okay, it's okay. I mean, like we decide to travel. That means that there's certain conditions.
She paid $80 US per test for the four of them, but did not receive the results. They were not allowed to board their returning flight on Monday. She then paid for a second round of tests, but was warned the results would likely not arrive within the 72-hour delay required by the Canadian government. In the meantime, she and her family are staying at the hotel, paying out of pocket, and she says she doesn't know when they'll be able to return to Montreal.
They don't want people to travel. Just don't let them travel from the beginning.
Air Transit declined an on-camera interview, but a spokesperson for the company told us that since January 7th, the tour operator has had to bar 269 passengers from boarding a flight because they did not have a negative COVID-19 test. She also added that prior warning and better collaboration on the part of the federal government could have avoided these kinds of problems. This couple from Stratford, Ontario was on their honeymoon at the same resort. They also paid for tests, but only one of them received a result.
So they forced us to separate and for her to leave to go back to Canada, leaving me here.
These Montrealers have tested positive for COVID-19. They're now quarantining in their hotel room and nervous about the future.
I don't know if I'm going to keep getting those results positive. And I don't know. I might lose my job.
Raquel Fletcher, Global News, Quebec City.
So based off of what you just saw in that video, you have people that will go get tested, and then, you know, the testing sites won't get their test back in a timely manner. And the United States, like I said, they're requiring 72 hours upon entry. So if your COVID test is beyond 72 hours, okay, you got to take it again, and that's going to be more money and more time that you spend in these countries. And you know, people who got jobs and or families that they have to tend to, this could be very problematic. So it's very important that before you take your trip, you need to research specifically on where you're going to get COVID tested, okay? Because this is very important. And certain places, to be honest, they're not going to really tell you that it's going to take longer than 72 hours. They're going to take your money. All right, you know, these laboratories will take your money knowing good and well that it's going to take more than 72 hours to get your test. And like I said, this can be very problematic if you have a job. Like you heard the guy at the end, he says he's worried about his job and he feels like it's in jeopardy. because of all this time he's spending out the country. So guys, for the people who are planning on vacationing within the next couple of months, you need to be looking into that on where you can get a COVID test. And you need to plan this ahead of time, because once again, these places, they might say like, oh, it's 72 hours, but it's really not going to be 72 hours. There are also different prices for depending on the laboratories that you go to. Some can be as little as $80 up to $400. Like I was reading stories where people were paying like $400 for COVID tests. Now imagine paying $400 for a COVID test and then it doesn't come back in 72 hours, and then you have to take another one because, like I said, in order to get on the plane, you have to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours. So once again, if you're somebody who is traveling, you need to make sure that you have all of this established beforehand, and you need to be calling and contacting people and making sure that you know where you're going to be able to get tested, because they're not going to let you on that plane if it's beyond 72 hours. And this only applies for passengers 2 years and up. So starting at 2 years old and up, you will be required to have this test. And another important thing that people need to know, even if you have a connecting flight, because not everybody that watches my channel is American. So, you know, you do have some people who are in other countries, but the United States is a common place where people have layovers. Even if you got a layover in the United States and you're going to another country afterwards, you still have to get a test in order to enter the United States. If you're somebody who's, you know, flying from Jamaica and then you got to stop in the United States so you can go fly to the UK, you still got to have a COVID test, because if you're going to be on the United States ground, you have to have a negative COVID test. Now, there is one thing that's very disturbing to me about this entire situation. It's for the people who have recently recovered from COVID, okay? Now, working in the hospital, for the people who don't know, I work in the hospital as a medical Spanish interpreter, and I also deal with COVID-19 patients. Like I deal with like the testing, the lab tests and the results or whatever. But one of the issues that I noticed is for people who have tested positive, let's say they tested positive like 2 weeks ago or even a month ago, is that sometimes when they get retested, their test still shows up positive. And that's one of the issues about COVID-19, is that it can still stay within your system up to 90 days, even if you're past your 2-week quarantine period. So, you know, I have a lot of patients that they'll tell me like, I'm trying to get a negative COVID test, but you know, it keeps showing up positive. And that's one of the things that I keep trying to tell them, that yeah, even if you're asymptomatic and you feel fine and you did the 2-week quarantine, your test could still show up positive even if you don't have any type of symptoms. So translating that to international travel, let's say you're one of those people who, you know, before you went on vacation, you had COVID, but you recovered, but you end up going on vacation to a foreign country, okay? Like, let's just say Dominican Republic, for example, okay? So in the Dominican Republic, you take a COVID test and then you notice it comes back positive, right? But you already recovered from COVID-19, you know, you did the 2-week quarantine or whatever, and you're asymptomatic, but it's still coming back positive. Well, unfortunately, you're gonna be stuck in the country until you get a negative test. And like I said, this thing can stay in your system up to 90 days. So for people who have jobs or, you know, priorities back in the United States, this could actually put you in jeopardy, because your test is gonna keep coming back positive, even if you're showing no signs of COVID, if you're asymptomatic. So, you know, that's something kind of scary for the people who have recently recovered from COVID, but they decide to go on vacation, is they have to get a negative test, and there's a possibility that their test can still show up positive, even if it's after, you know, 2 weeks of quarantine, and that could be up to 90 days. So my biggest advice for the people who just recently recovered from COVID, I would take a COVID test before I travel to make sure that my test is negative, because once again, you do not want to get stuck in a foreign country for 90 days or however long, who knows. Okay, because I done had, like I told you, I done had patients who have been repeatedly testing positive for like months, because it's still in the system, and it affects everybody differently. So, you know, some people, they'll recover and they'll get a negative, and then you have some people that could be testing, you know, 2 or 3 months and it's still showing up positive. So I just want people to keep that in the back of their mind, that that could be a possibility. If you're somebody who has recently recovered from COVID within the past 90 days, I would definitely recommend you to take a test before you travel. But yeah, for the people who are still planning on traveling within the next couple of months, definitely talk to your hotel, ask them like, hey, where are some good places I can get tested, you know, for COVID, and do your research, do your homework. Like I said, I don't want anybody to be stuck in another country, and you know, if you don't got no money, that's another problem. Like, let's just say you run out of money and you're doing this at your own expense. Like, you don't want to be stuck in another country like that. Like, that's pretty scary, man. So I just want everybody to be safe and be careful, you know, when booking your trips. You know, I even got a couple of trips that I already got booked, but I'm kind of like, you know, like with all this going on, it was one thing, you know, leaving without having to, you know, do a COVID test. But now that they're requiring a COVID test entering the United States, it's definitely gonna be a lot more trickier. So, you know, guys, just, you know, do your research, do your homework. If you got any questions, you know where to hit me up, JRod600 on Instagram. But yeah, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll catch y'all in my next video. All right, deuces.